Well, hello, this is Ron White, the 2009 USA Memory Champion, and I want to talk with you about how to memorize a poem, a quote, or verses. You know, a lot of scripture is just another, it's written poetry a lot of times, like Proverbs or Ecclesiastes or something like that. Or if you want to memorize a poem, whether it be a 20, 30, 40, 50 line poem, you can do that. So a quote, a presidential quote by a president, Teddy Roosevelt. I'm going to show you how to memorize part of a quote by Teddy Roosevelt using this system. So, if you're a public speaker, memorizing poems and quotes is a great skill to add into your speech. Or just if you're a fan of poetry and you want to know poems by heart, or maybe your faith is important to you, so you want to memorize verses. This system will enable you to do something word for word. This is different than giving a speech without notes, because when you want to give a speech, you're just kind of using bullet points, main ideas, and then getting up in front of the room and talking. This is literally word for word. So I'm going to show you how to do something word for word. In order to do this, we need to understand the basics of memory. We always start all our programs off covering this, because we never know at what point you're going to jump into the program. So if you've seen this part, I'll jump through real quick, and if you're not, this is going to be a good lesson for you. The basics of memory. There are 5 keys in our memory system that we teach. The first one is focus. You focus your mind by good nutrition and exercise. You focus it by foods you eat, whether it be spinach and blueberries that have antioxidants in it, or omega-3 fish oil pills. Focus is crucial to your memory. So just treat your body good, and you'll be treating your mind good, and your ability to focus. Lots of sleep. You know what? I always tell people, if you want to have a good memory, it's good to get 20 to 21 hours of sleep a day, and I mean that seriously. Actually, I don't. I'm totally joking. But get a good 8 hours sleep, and that's going to help your focus. Files, a place to store the data. If you've run through the programs before, this is going to be your house files, the journey method. And if you have not run through our memory program before, then I'm going to explain that to you. Picture. Turn numbers into pictures. It says numbers here, but it's anything. You're going to have to turn the words in the speech, the words in the poems, or the words in the verse into a picture. If you have to be or not to be, that is the question. If that's the line you want to memorize, that is so abstract. To be or not to be, that is the question. What does that look like? Well, it doesn't look like nothing. It's an abstract. So you have to turn it into a picture. You might see 2 B's and a question mark. 2B, and then maybe see another B, or 2 B's, and then see 2 more B's, and these 2 B's have the circle with a line drawn through them, like not. So to be or not to be, and then a big question mark above it. You're turning that verse into a picture, and that's crucial for memorizing a verse. Action, make the pictures active, have those B's buzzing all around, not just sitting still, and then going back and review is really crucial. Okay, the journey method. If you have not heard me describe the journey method, what I'm going to recommend right now is you go to one of our other programs, or on how to give speeches without notes, or how to memorize playing cards. And in there, I describe this journey method. But you're going to need to get this journey method mastered. And a really great place to master that is one of those programs. Basically, essentially, what you're going to do with the journey method is you're going to number pieces of furniture in your home. You're going to number pieces of furniture in your house. So you take one room in your house and you number the pieces of furniture: bed, desk, television, lamp, chair. And then after you have these numbered, you move into the next room. The next room would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pick 5 pieces of furniture that really catch your eye in that room. Big pieces of furniture, not small pieces of furniture, and number them 6 through 10. The next one, number some pieces of furniture in the next room, 11 through 15. The next one, 16 through 20. Number 20 pieces of furniture in your house. Get to the point where you can say it forwards and backwards. You can say what number 8 is without thinking about it. You can say what number 9 is without thinking about it. Number 20 pieces of furniture in your home, and get real familiar with these. And these are actually going to be files when you store data. Now, Let's take this quote by the 26th President of the United States, Teddy Roosevelt. The quote says this: "It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. But the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Teddy Roosevelt, 26th President of the United States. Now, how do you do it? How do you memorize this poem? You break it down by line or by thought. You get to turn these into a picture. So, you take the first segment. It is not the critic who counts. I visualize two movie critics, Siskel and Ebert, counting on their fingers. So, on my first piece of furniture in my living room, my first file in my living room is my television set. So, sitting on my television set, I see Siskel and Ebert, the movie critics, and they're counting. The quote, the segment that I'm wanting to remember is, "It is not the critic who counts." My next piece of furniture, on that one, I see Arnold Schwarzenegger tripping, and I'm pointing to him. The word there is, "nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbled." Arnold Schwarzenegger is obviously a very strong man. The next one, "or where the doer of deeds could have done better." I put better, I turn that into a picture, and I use butter. Indeed, I use a deed, like a deed to a house or property. So, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. I visualize myself putting butter on a deed for this, to memorize this phrase. And then I go back after I've done this and I review. It's not the critic who counts, Siskel and Ebert counting on my files, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, pointing Arnold Schwarzenegger tripping, or where the doer of deeds could have done better, putting butter on a deed. But the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. On this one, I put a man in an arena, and I handed him credit cards. So you're giving credit to the man in the arena. The line is, "The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena." Focus on that and make it vivid and see it really vividly on your file. And then the next one, "whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood." On this one, I see a face with dust and sweat and blood, and I see it real vividly and clearly. Now, I go back and I review this. On my first file, on your first file in your whatever it is, you saw Siskel and Ebert counting. That's not the critic who counts. The next one, Arnold Schwarzenegger stumbling, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbled. On the next one, butter on a deed, or the doer of deeds could have done better. The next one, credit cards in an arena. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena. The next one, a face with dust, sweat, and blood, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood. Review. Don't try to memorize it word for word, just the main points. Read through it once or twice, and you'll get a feel for the words, and your mind will fill in the gaps. In other words, whenever you're creating these pictures, you're not turning every single word into a picture. Here, I didn't turn marred into a picture. I didn't turn by into a picture. I just turned the key words, face, dust, sweat, blood, into a picture. If you just use the key words, turn those into a picture, and create a little bitty miniature story there, and then visualize that story on pieces of furniture in your house, your mind will fill in the gaps. Now, here's the deal. If you're memorizing a poem, or you're memorizing a verse out of the Bible, or you're memorizing a play lines, your mind will not fill in the gaps if you're not familiar with the text. So what you have to do is you have to read the text, you have to read the poem, you have to read the verses, you have to read the quote 1 or 2 or 3 times before you even start using your files and your pictures, because your mind won't fill in the gaps if you're not familiar with it. After you get familiar with it, turn it into picture, and then your mind will fill in the gaps with just simple pictures. This is the effective way to memorize a scripture, a poem, a quote, or chapters of books, or whatever you want, word for word. It takes a little practice, but it's the same old focus, file, picture, action, and review. You use pieces of furniture in your house, memorize poems. I challenge you right now to go get your favorite poem, go get your favorite presidential quote, and then memorize it this way. Remember that you're going to use pieces of furniture in your house. You're going to take the quote, and you're going to do it thought by thought. See, here's where the semicolon is. Everything before this semicolon goes on one file. See, here's where the comma is. Everything before this comma goes on the number 2 file. Here's the period. Everything before this period goes on the next file. Here's the next comma. So it's by segment. This, but it doesn't have to be commas and semicolons is where you stop. But that's kind of where it's normally where the thought stops. So it's a good idea for that. It's a good way to do that. I would encourage you to practice this. You're going to need maybe 20 files for a 20-line poem. You're going to need 25 files for a 25-line poem. But this is a great method. Practice it, practice it, practice it, and memorize your favorite poems or quotes.